We're back on America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman. Thanks for sticking around.
And what continues to be around in the news, more talk about the mystery of the Malaysian Airlines jetliner. The evidence suggesting now it was diverted hundreds of miles off course. New military radar plotting reveals an unidentified aircraft appeared to be following a commonly used navigational route when it was last spotted early on Saturday northwest of Malaysia. That course could have been set deliberately either by flying the Boeing 777 manually or programming the autopilot. Among the theories, investigators say someone who knew how to fly the plane deliberately diverted the flight hundreds of miles off its scheduled course between Kuala Lumpur and Beijing. More than a dozen countries continue to scour the Southeast Asia Sea in hopes of finding a trace of the wreckage. And now we're even getting theories about a seismic tremor being part of this. Here to unpack all of that and talk about other issues today, including the mystery of the Malaysian jetliner, our counterterrorism expert, former FBI agent and West Pointer, Chad Jenkins. Chad, it is good to have you back on America's Forum.
Thanks for having me, J.D. John, looking forward to it.
The mystery of this plane. Every day something new. What's your latest take on this?
Well, it just is that, J.D. It's still a mystery to us. And investigators, obviously, from all over the world are putting their heads together to try to determine exactly what's taking place. And there's a lot of theories out there. But I think the couple caveats that still need to be addressed are the situation, what the situation is in Malaysia and that whole Southeast Asia region. I think we can still bring in a threat of Islamic extremism being the caveat to that, and then diving more into detail on these pilots and their backgrounds as well. And also we have to bring in the Iranian two passengers that were using the fake passports. So everything is still on the table at this point in time.
Yeah, one of the things that's been the biggest takeaway for me this week after all this is what you talked about last time you were here, Chad. 40 million stolen passports, and here we are now 13 years after 9/11 when we were supposed to have this overwhelming revolution when it came to airport security, and this is still happening on an alarming rate. That number, I cannot get over that number. 40 million stolen passports, people traveling freely throughout the world like this, and it opens up a lot of doors and a lot of questions.
Well, the criminal enterprise is the most most money-worthy thing in the world. It's what makes the world turn, is criminal activity. So I think the passports is a huge conglomerate of that and adds to it. It helps with human trafficking. I mean, there's breaking news of the human trafficking of the Chinese Uyghurs in Malaysia just this morning. So that all plays a big factor into this. But going to your point, on actually 13 years now past 9/11, and we still have issues where we can't track aircraft in the air, and we don't have the technology to do that now. So those are a little bit alarming as well.
I'm reading a report here from the AP that just came down, and there are a couple words here because they're quoting an unnamed official a U.S. official involved in the investigation. A couple quotes here: act of privacy. They've not ruled out an act of privacy, and also human intervention. Kind of break down, Chad, that kind of government official speak for us, and what we should think about with government officials putting that out there.
Putting out that there's an act of privacy?
Piracy.
Act of
piracy.
Piracy.
Yes.
Oh, piracy.
It's what it says here, and that it may have been an act of piracy, this coming from an unnamed official who doesn't have permission to talk about this openly.
Well, act of piracy, and you got to look at that. That could still be within the pilot's ability to pirate. I mean, much like when we saw not too recently the aircraft that ended up diverting off of its course to land into Europe, that pilot that took that as a hijacked aircraft. So with these leaks, every single day we're getting just a little bit of a drip of new information that's coming out. And, that's significant, and that's what's the act of an investigation. That's what happens.
And Chad, this now using the term air piracy adds another dimension, because that would imply taking the craft, taking the people, holding them hostage, as opposed to primarily when we think about terrorism, we think about asymmetrical warfare, blowing people up, killing people, inflicting maximum damage the simplest way possible to instill terror. So piracy is a level of sophistication that is, while it's not new in the world, this notion of jetliners and a new dimension to hijacking or air piracy certainly is.
Well, air piracy, absolutely, but think of regular ship piracy. Who's the #1 organization in the world that does ship piracy right now is Al-Shabaab. I mean, that's the way in which they fund their cause, their Islamic extremist cause in Somalia. So are we seeing a new development in air piracy? That just might be the case, because as soon as we got the information that those engines ran for an additional 4.5 hours, I mean, my thinking was that the likelihood of an actual act of terrorism, and they trying to divert the plane maybe to fly to the Petronas towers in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, they're the largest towers in 2004, but that has negated now. This adding to it definitely brings some more speculation.
One last thing to add before we move on to Russia. The official also said it's possible the plane may have landed somewhere. So, you know, guys, a lot of speculation, but we want to move on to what's happening right now with Russia. We've seen paratroopers jumping out of planes, tanks rolling through the streets in Crimea, and the referendum is ahead this weekend. Many people giving up on the fact that Crimea will remain part of the Ukraine, and that because there is such a large population of pro-Russian people in that region that it will go ahead and they'll vote and have it become part of Russia instead. The UK, the European Union, and the U.S. are promising some kind of reprisal if that does happen here, Chad. But when you look at what Russia is doing, we've seen them ramp up the military exercises here. Is there anything that indicates to you that this is more than just a military exercise?
Right now, it's exactly in line with what he did 2 weeks ago down in the Crimea region. Now, back then it was 150,000 troops in this big exercise. Right now we're looking at 8,500 troops on the eastern, border of Ukraine, western Russia, and that's the kind of mission training set that they're doing right now. But still, 8,500 Russian troops fully capable of conducting offensive operations, without a doubt.
Throughout the Cold War, you would see conflicting war games, maneuvers, and the like, to the point where on a daily basis, our nuclear submarines for the old Soviet Union and our nation would get very close to one another. Mm-hmm. In this day and age, since, as John pointed out, in addition to the Russian exercises, we're conducting our own through NATO and doing different air drills. Do you ever worry about the specter of miscalculation in these situations in terms of the conflicting war games in a tight geopolitical area? Absolutely.
We just landed the F-16s in Poland, I think on yesterday. So you look at that, and that brings the echelon up a little bit. It increases the echelon. So without a doubt, those strategic moves will play a role in the political scene in that region, without a doubt.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that vote that's coming up in Crimea this weekend. Doesn't look good right now, and we saw Secretary Kerry and Sergei Lavrov meeting in Russia. Not a lot of bro going on right there. No hugging, no touching. They weren't even making eye contact.
In stark contrast to our camaraderie here on America's Forum. Chad Jenkins, it's always good to have your insights on what is transpiring. Although it's somewhat troubling in the world, it's good to have your expertise from the counterterrorism standpoint. Thanks so much.
Thank you, JD.
And when we come back, you get a chance to weigh in on the issues of the day. You can do it via social media. Tweet us your questions at NewsmaxTV, hashtag America's Forum. Visit us at Facebook.com/Newsmax, or email us your comments. And our address is connect@NewsmaxTV.com. America's Forum is coming right back.